Welcome back to another video, everyone. It's me, Xeschel, and I'm being hunted down by aliens. Today I'm going to be talking about the similarities between Canada and Switzerland. Basically, I've lived in Canada for the last quite a few years, and every summer I've been coming to Switzerland, and just in June I've moved to Switzerland permanently. I'll probably go back to Canada at some point. But for now, I've settled down in Switzerland, in a school here, and now I'm going to talk about the similarities. The basics. Canada was founded on July 1st, 1867, making it 152 years old. Switzerland was founded in 1848, but the first three cantons joined together on August 1st, 1291, making it technically 730 years, 3 months, and 6 days old. Capital of Canada is Ottawa, and the capital of Switzerland is Bern. Canada uses dollars as their currency. Switzerland uses francs. Population and landmass. Canada has a population of 37 million people and an area of 9.9 million square kilometers, making it a population density of 4 people per square kilometer. Switzerland has 8.5 million people and an area of 41,000 kilometers, making it a population density of 270 people per square kilometer. Since Switzerland has such a high population density, if it was the same size of Canada, it would have around 1.9 billion people. Geography and climate. Canada has a bit of everything. It's got mountains, islands, flatlands, prairies, the Arctic, temperate rainforests. Switzerland is mostly mountains, hills, and flatlands. Canada and Switzerland are in the same hemisphere, but they have slightly different climates. Where I lived, on Vancouver Island, there was very nice summers, same as Switzerland. But in the winters in Vancouver, it's usually pretty rainy, which kind of sucks. Switzerland has very snowy and sunny winters, which is really nice because there's snow everywhere and there's sun and you can have a nice time skiing. Stuff that I noticed. Since Switzerland is like 700 years old, there's a lot of very old houses. For example, the house I'm in right now was built in 1886. Most of Canada's houses aren't older than like the 50s or 60s. Yeah, there's lots of houses from the 80s and then lots of modern houses as well. Logging in Canada is quite a big problem, and I covered a bit of that in one of my videos. I'll leave a link to it. The way they log in Canada is by clear cutting, which is basically when they take a big section of forest and then like take out a square kilometer of trees, and it ends up just looking completely horrible. Switzerland uses selective logging, which is basically they'll see a big forest, they'll like take out a tree from here, a tree from here, a tree from here, and it'll still look like a real forest, just like a few little trees will be missing, but you won't notice it in the big picture, which makes Switzerland very nice because it doesn't have any clear cuts. Here's another thing that's different in Switzerland. Fridges are mostly pretty small, whereas in Canada, they're like double the size. In Canada, people play way more basketball than in Switzerland. In Switzerland, people think that kicking basketballs is okay. Another thing that's different in Switzerland is that books, they're pretty much the same. It's pretty much the same here, but if you want to put them like this, so that the cover's on top, the side is upside down. What the heck? Whereas with an English book, when you put the front down like this, you can still read the side. Another thing that's different in Switzerland is that mayonnaise is in tubes, which I don't think very many Canadians know about, but yeah, it's very handy because you can just like onto a piece of bread. In Canada, my summer holidays would usually start around the middle of June, but in Switzerland, summer holidays start around the beginning of July, which is kind of annoying. And to make it even worse, school starts again on August 15th, whereas in Canada it starts on September 1st, or sometime in September. People. Since Vancouver is pretty close to Asia, pretty close, it's like across the water, there is quite a bit of people from China and Japan and India, and a few other countries as well. Only 5% of Canadians are actually Indigenous. Indigenous pretty much means that they're the people that were there before the European settlers came. Switzerland's indigenous population, I guess, makes up pretty much like 75% of the population, and 25% is from other countries. Switzerland has 4 main areas German, French, Italian, and Romansh. It's like Romansh is its own language, and basically people there speak Romansh, and that's a old language that originates from Roman times. Like Canada, Switzerland also has a very international population, but there's quite a bit more people from Central Europe and Eastern Europe. Next thing I'm going to talk about is dialect. Basically in Canada, you can not tell where anyone is from just by them speaking, whereas in Switzerland, if you hear someone say things, you can tell like by the way that they say certain words or how they speak things, you can tell where they are in the country. Like I can hear if someone is from the canton of Zurich or Bern or like Graubünden or things like that. And also other people can tell that when I speak that I'm from Wallis, which is kind of like a hillbilly dialect that is kind of weird. And everyone kind of makes fun of me, but
they ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're...
I think it is one of the coolest dialects. Dispute me in the comments. All of these dialects combined make up Swiss German, which is really difficult to learn unless you've like grown up here. There's pretty much no way that you can learn it. Like there's no books or anything that will teach you how to speak Swiss German, because it's all just a bunch of slang pretty much. So all the books that you'll read will be teaching you how to speak High German, which is the more professional German that they speak in Germany. For example, the difference between High German and Walliser German, which I speak, would be Sollen wir jetzt essen? And then in Walliser German it would be Sollte wir go essen? As you can tell, like the way of speaking in Switzerland is quite a bit different than in Germany. So lots of German people can't understand like a clue of what I'm saying. I'll say something and they'll be like, "Excuse me, what? What are you trying to say?" I'll have to repeat it in High German. Yeah. That's why a lot of Swiss people can understand High German, because that's what they learn in school, but German people can't understand Swiss German, because it's like slang pretty much. Transportation. A flight from Switzerland to Canada can cost anywhere between $600 to $91,000 if you're renting a private jet. Where I lived in Canada, the main source of transportation was cars, which isn't very good for the environment, whereas Switzerland has one of the best transportation systems in the world, consisting of a network of a bunch of trains, cable cars, boats, and buses. Pretty much everything you need to get to anywhere you need. For example, if you've just arrived at the Zurich airport, you can open up the app and enter in where you are and then where you're heading to. From there you can change your departure date and then also your departure time, depending on where you are or what you're doing. It'll show you all of your available connections. You just have to click on one of them. It'll show you your start place, all of the places you'll have to stop, what platform you'll have to change to, and the times of everything. Canada has like a lot of pickup trucks, like a lot of pickup trucks. I was driving down the highway for like an hour and I counted like something like 300 pickup trucks or something. Whereas in Switzerland you barely ever see them. Like I've seen maybe like 10 of them in my life. There's like a guy in the village that has like a little Toyota. Like it's quite a small truck. Bruh. Compared to like what people drive in Canada. And everyone in the village calls it a tank, which I find is kind of funny because it's like this tiny little truck. Switzerland has a lot of car companies here that you don't really get in Canada, like Peugeot, Renault, Citroën, Skoda, and Opel. There's probably a few more, but I can't think of them right now. But yeah, you don't really see those ever in Canada. With driving in Switzerland, they're very strict. Like if you drive like maybe 5 kilometers over the speed limit, you can get a ticket. Whereas in Canada, you can drive like 10 kilometers over and they like won't care. Education. Switzerland has 2 main options. One is apprenticeship, the other is high school, and then there's also a few others. With the apprenticeship, you can basically choose from a list of a bunch of apprenticeships that you can do. You can be in construction, you can be in like health kind of, you can be in like sales, stuff like that. You can be in media. There's a bunch of different apprenticeships for a bunch of different things. I'm in the middle of choosing between a house builder, a media specialist, and a IT person. So yeah, we'll see what I'm gonna do. But don't be telling other people what I'm gonna be doing, because it's not solid yet. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do, so don't take my word for it. The high school route is basically for people who really enjoy school and want to be doing the higher education jobs, like an engineer or a dentist or a doctor or things like that you kind of need a higher education for. But then you'll have to go to university. Brings me to my next topic, which is university in Switzerland is actually pretty cheap. It would be around $5,000 for your bachelor's degree, I'm pretty sure. And then in Canada it'd be around like 20 grand to maybe like, yeah, it can go up as high as you want, depending depending on what kind of school you're going to. But all this requires another like 8 or so years of schooling, like 4 years of high school, 4 years of university, all that, which a lot of people don't really feel like doing. They just want to kind of get on with their life, kind of. You know what I mean? So basically, you can do an apprenticeship where you start getting paid money. For your first year of your house building apprenticeship, you'd probably be making around 600 to 800 francs a month, which is around $800 to $1,000 a month. And then every year it usually adds a few hundred francs to it. So by the end you may be earning like 1,500 francs a month, which is pretty good if you're just like some teenager. Because of this, after you finished your apprenticeship, you already have quite a bit of money in your bank account, and you have like a certificate that says you are skilled in house building. So you can go to whatever country you want and go make money like with the actual wage and so. Whereas if you just graduated out of high school, you have no money, you have like, I'm not going to say no skills, you obviously have skills, but you don't know how to build a house, for example. You know how to calculate the Pythagorean theorem, but let's be honest, when are we going to use that in our daily lives, you know? Anyway, I don't want to spark some sort of controversy, so yeah, do what you want, I don't really care.
Money stuff.
The minimum wage in Canada is $14 an hour, and the minimum wage in Switzerland is 22 francs per hour, which is around 30 Canadian dollars an hour, like more than double the minimum wage in Canada. This means that making more money is easier in Switzerland, but the downside of that is you do get a lot more taxes. Like you get to pay like something like 200 francs a year to be able to listen to the radio, because it's run by the government.
And of course there's a bunch of other taxes as well.
Because you're paying, you don't need to listen to ads, which is really nice. You can just listen to your music for as long as possible. But in Canada, every like, I don't know, I'm not really sure, like every 10 songs or something, there'll be like an ad break with maybe like 5 ads.
Military.
Canada's military has around 30,000 members in it, and Switzerland's military has around 300,000 members, which is like, oh, Switzerland has a large military, whatever. But if you look at the population, which is Canada has like 30 million, Switzerland has like 8 million, it's kind of off a bit. This is because pretty much like every 18-year-old to 20-year-old boy has to go to the mandatory military service, which lasts a few months, and you gotta like go train and do stuff for the military. That's why there's so many members of the military here. And then once you're done the military training, you have to go home with your gun so that if there's ever a world war, which Switzerland hasn't been in for like 100 years, they're prepared. So this means that like almost every man in Switzerland has a gun at their house. And you'd think that if everyone has a gun, there'd be high like crime rates and so. But that's actually not true. Switzerland has one of the lowest crime rates in the world.
Food.
Some of Canada's most famous foods are smoked salmon, which is just smoked salmon, I guess. Maple syrup, which comes from trees, like you put these little things in it and the sap drips out, and then you boil the sap and then you can make that into maple syrup. I guess that's not really food, but whatever. Then there's also Nanaimo bars, which are like these kind of cake-like things that are like kind of maybe around like that big maybe. And they're from the town of Nanaimo, which is on Vancouver Island, where I used to live. Some of Switzerland's most famous foods are raclette, which is basically, I've put it in some of my videos before, but if you don't know, it's basically you take like these slices of cheese, you put it onto a like little cup thing, you put the cup inside the big machine, and the big machine melts it. Then with the cheese, you usually put it on a plate with some like potatoes and some of those like little onion ball things, like the really small ones, and usually some pickles and so. It's pretty yummy. There's also fondue, which most people know, just a big pot full of cheese that you stick bread in and then eat it. And also rösti, which is not rosti, by the way, for all you Canadians.
The O with the 2 dots over it makes a sound.
Basically, rösti is a bunch of grated up potatoes in like a frying pan, which you fry, then you flip it with butter and everything, and it ends up being like this, kind of like a big hash brown. Swiss cheese doesn't really exist. I mean, it does, but like, you can't really say Swiss cheese because there's so many different cheeses in Switzerland that you can't really do that. There's Emmentaler, which is the one with the holes in it, which is the like stereotypical Swiss cheese. And then there's Gruyere, which is my favorite, and yeah, you should definitely try it. It's my favorite kind of cheese. And all of these kinds of cheeses, like Emmentaler, Gruyere, are all named after places in Switzerland. Like Emmental is like a place in Canton of Bern. Gruyere is in I'm not sure which canton, but it's like in the French region there.
So, what is my favorite country out of the two? You'll have to subscribe to find out.
If you enjoyed this video, subscribe and join 204 people who made the great decision. Also, thank you very much for 200 subscribers. It is absolutely awesome that I've gotten this many people to subscribe.